It's Tuesday, the 17th of October, 2023. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories, 5 minutes. Let's get cracking. Story number 1, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese back in Parliament yesterday said Hamas is the enemy of all peace-loving Palestinian people.
Parliament honoured the memory of victims of the terror attack in Israel and expressed solidarity with the Jewish community. Albanese said Hamas was the enemy, not the Palestinian people. He promised tougher penalties for Australians who glorify terror attacks and extra funding for security at Jewish places of worship and schools. While supporting Israel's right to defend itself, Albanese said the humanitarian crisis in Gaza was deteriorating quickly and said that as a consequence, the two-state peace solution has been pushed out further. Opposition leader Peter Dutton said Hamas's attack was a total act of sheer barbarity and the embodiment of evil. Not all politicians agreed. Senator Lydia Thorpe called Israel an occupier, and while the world had rallied behind Israel, it had failed to recognise past human rights abuses against the Palestinian people. Sydney Teal independents Kylie Tink and Sophie Scamps and Tasmanian independent Andrew Wilkie joined with the Greens to accuse Israel of war crimes. Meanwhile, Foreign Minister Penny Wong said Australians fleeing Israel had been flown out over the weekend, but a flight scheduled for last night was likely to be the last one for a while. About 1,200 Australians have so far received help.
And just quickly, Sean, question time. I'm assuming The Voice would have got a decent run.
Sure did. The coalition accused the Prime Minister of focusing too much on inner-city elites in his pursuit of constitutional recognition and wasting about $450 million of taxpayers' money on the referendum. The criticism comes after Labor MP Mike Freelander over the weekend accused the Yes campaign of being too focused on inner-city elites. Peter Dutton sought leave during question time to move a motion to condemn Albanese for dividing the nation over the Voice referendum. Dutton backed away from his pledge, though, that if elected, he'd hold a second Indigenous referendum to make a simple change recognising Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders in the Constitution.
All right, big day in politics. On to story number 2. Luxury wine sales, Sean, are on the rise, and Australia's biggest producer, Treasury Wines, expects the trend to continue despite the tough economic times.
Trading for the September quarter came in as expected, but high-end wine is growing, whereas under $10 a bottle wine, I think that sounds like you, Michael, sales are falling. Treasury, which owns Penfolds, is also on a cost-cutting regime, and it expects profit margins will exceed 25%. Pretty good, really. The numbers came out at the group's annual general meeting yesterday, where 46% of shareholders voted against the decision by the board to grant boss Tim Ford share-based incentives, even though he hadn't hit benchmarks. The board's argument is that no one could have foreseen the heavy drop in profit from punishing wine tariffs imposed by China. Treasury also suggested it thought those tariffs might just be removed by the first half of next year.
On to story number 3 now, Sean, and 2 of the country's best known and best paid radio presenters are set to sign a 10-year, $200 million plus contract and extend their reach from Sydney into Melbourne.
Kyle Sandilands and Jackie Henderson, better known as Jackie O, are set to sign the deal, and their irreverent breakfast radio show at Kiss FM is likely to push into Melbourne. According to the Financial Review, the deal will be done within weeks. The contract will also include a base salary, shares in the company, and a slice of revenue generated, earning them $200 million, according to the report. Given the increased audience with the addition of Melbourne, the sources said the deal could earn them $230 million over 10 years if it works in Melbourne. That would easily be the biggest deal for talent in Australian history, not just on radio, but across entertainment.
Story number 4, Uber has warned that the price of having a meal delivered from its app could rise by 85%, Sean, and the cost of rideshare trips by 60%. This is under the Albanese government's sweeping industrial relations reforms to give a pay floor to gig workers.
While Uber wants the government to rein in the broad provisions of its Closing Loopholes bill, the ACTU is seeking a dramatic expansion to the rights of contractors to ensure anyone in an employee-like arrangement has minimum pay and conditions. Both Uber and the ACTU have made submissions to the Senate inquiry. According to the Sydney Morning Herald, while Uber said it supported a safety net, the company cautioned the bill could lead to a $1.5 billion hit to restaurants and other businesses due to reduced demand. Uber says delivery fees would be higher during peak evening and weekend meal times compared to lunch, which it expects will result in larger decreases in orders.
All right, last one. Story number 5, Sean. Finally, Taylor Swift's Eras is easily the biggest concert film opening ever, making about $95 million in its first weekend in North American theatres.
Move over, Barbie. Taylor is here. The film goes for 3 hours and Swifties and non-Swifties flock to see her. Helping was the fact that a bunch of major releases have been cancelled in the US because of the actors' strike. The box office in North America is still down about 17% from its pre-COVID levels, according to the New York Times, so it needs films like this one. In case you didn't know, the Eras tour was Taylor's first one on the road since 2018. It was big. The movie cost about $15 million. Yep, made $95 million in the first weekend. And there was no traditional marketing employed. Instead, Ms. Swift communicated directly with her 350 million close social media friends.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Tuesday, the 17th of October, 2023. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed Business News, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.